Hey, welcome. You know that feeling when you're looking at a recipe or maybe some building plans and the fractions just make your brain freeze for a second? Yep, if that's you, you're in exactly the right place. Today we're going to totally demystify the world of multiplying and dividing fractions.
I mean, think about it. You're doubling a recipe, cutting fabric for a project, splitting a bill. Fractions are literally everywhere. They're just the language we use to talk about parts of things. And honestly, they're way less scary than they sometimes seem.
And here's the secret, and I'm serious about this. Every single fraction problem, whether you're multiplying or dividing, is really just telling one of two very simple stories. Story one, we're taking a part of a part. Or story two, we're trying to find out how many groups fit inside something. That's it. That's the whole game.
So, let's kick things off with a little thought experiment. You've got a recipe that needs 3/4 of a cup of flour, but you need to double it. What do? I mean, it feels a bit like addition, because you need more, but that word double suggests something else, right? Well, stick with me, and by the end of this, you'll not only know the answer, you'll understand exactly why it's the right one.
See, it really all comes down to choosing the right tool for the job. And knowing whether to multiply or divide is simply about figuring out which of those two stories the problem is telling you.
Okay, so before we can dive in and start solving things, we need to build our toolkit. Let's just make sure we're all speaking the same language and get our basic terms straight.
First up, the proper fraction. This is probably the one that pops into your head first. It's just a piece of a whole, like 3 slices out of a 5-slice pizza. It's always less than 1.
Next, we have the improper fraction. Now, the name sounds kinda wrong, doesn't it? But all it means is that you have more than enough pieces to make a whole thing. Think about it. If you have 11/4 of a dollar, that's more than a whole dollar, right? That's all an improper fraction is.
And that leads us perfectly into the mixed number. This is how we actually talk about those improper fractions in the real world. We don't say we have 11/4, we say we have 2 3/4. It's just a much neater, tidier package for the same idea.
Okay, this next part is maybe the single most important rule today, so listen up. Before you can multiply or divide, you absolutely must convert any mixed numbers into improper fractions first. This is a non-negotiable step, and it's where a ton of mistakes happen. So let's lock this one in.
Let's see how it works. Say you have 2 2/3 liters of a sports drink. Here's the process. You multiply the big whole number, 2, by the bottom number, 3. That gets you 6. Then you add the top number 2 to that result, so 6 plus 2 is 8. Finally, you just keep the original bottom number, which was 3. Bam! 8/3. It's a simple little process that works every single time.
Okay, our toolkit is ready. Let's get into that first core idea, that first story, multiplying. This is all about finding a part of a part.
And I'm going to give you a secret code word. You ready? The word is of. Seriously, anytime you see a math problem asking for 1/3 of 1/2 or 3/4 of the total, that word of is like a giant neon sign flashing multiply, multiply, multiply. You're taking a part of another part.
And you know what the best part is? The actual math is ridiculously easy. You just multiply the top numbers together, then multiply the bottom numbers together. That's it. So here, 2 times 3 is 6 on top, 5 times 4 is 20 on the bottom. That gives us 6/20ths, which of course we can simplify down to 3/10. Done.
All right, let's switch gears and move on to our second story, division. This answers a totally different question. It's not about finding a smaller piece. It's about asking how many groups of this size can I fit into that amount?
So how in the world do we actually do that? Well, the rule for dividing fractions is, well, it's a little bit strange. It's kind of counterintuitive when you first hear it.
Because get this, to divide by a fraction, you don't actually divide at all. In fact, you do the exact opposite.
Yup, you heard me right. Here's the trick, and it's the key to every single division problem. You multiply by its flip. Now that flip has a fancy math name, of course. It's called the reciprocal, and all that means is you turn the fraction upside down. The top number goes to the bottom, and the bottom number goes to the top. Simple as that. Okay, let's try it out. Rena has 3/4 of a kilogram of trail mix. She wants to pack it into little bags that each hold 1/8 of a kilogram. So how many bags can she make? Well, we just use our rule. Keep, change, flip. We keep the first fraction, 3/4, as it is. We change the division sign to multiplication, and we flip the second fraction, 1/8, to become 8/1. Now it's an easy multiplication problem. 3 times 8 is 24 on top. 4 times 1 is 4 on the bottom. and 24 divided by 4 is 6. She can make exactly 6 bags.
So, knowing the how is great, but the real skill, the real superpower, is knowing when to use it. And it all comes down to just reading the story of the problem. Let's use the classic pizza example to make this crystal clear.
Look at this side by side. On the left, we ask, what is half of 3/4 of a pizza? There's our keyword of. That means multiply. We're finding a part of a part. But look at the right. If 3/4 of a pizza is shared by 2 people, how much does each get? Shared by tells us we're splitting something into groups, and that means division. The numbers are identical, but the story and the math are completely different.
All right, time for one last challenge. Let's put everything we've learned together. A designer has 5.5 meters of fabric, and each scarf needs 3/4 of a meter. How many complete scarves can be made? So, what's the story here? Are we taking a part of a part, or are we seeing how many groups can fit?
Let's break it down. First step, always, is convert that mixed number. 5.5 becomes 11/2. The story is how many 3/4 groups fit into the bigger piece, so it's definitely division. We set it up, 11/2 divided by 3/4. Now we do our move, keep, change, flip. It becomes 11/2 times 4/3. Multiply across the top, we get 44. Multiply across the bottom, we get 6. So we have 44/6. Now how many times does 6 go into 44? It goes in 7 times with a little bit left over. That means the designer can make 7 complete scarves.
And there you have it. You now know the how, and more importantly, the why. It all comes down to those 2 stories, taking a part of a part or seeing how many groups fit. The tools are simple, and now you know how to read the signs. So look around. Your kitchen, your workshop, your budget. What fraction problem is out there just waiting for you to solve it?